So there has been a rise of deep fakes, right? And this has been pretty incredible. We're seeing it more and more. And, this deep fake, I mean, so what is it, first of all? It's a video, an image or audio that has been so altered by artificial intelligence that it is very, very convincing. So, I mean, this is a really a perfect example of this of AI's dual nature, right? So, on the one hand, it can be a really funny, harmless way to make some entertaining videos. And on the other hand, it's really a powerful tool for deception. And this is what we really are trying to hone in on because we've seen deep fakes be used before, especially as adults. We've seen them being used to spread fake news about politicians or to create, fraudulent financial scams or just, to kind of cause chaos. So the whole idea is being able to understand, and spot the warning signs. So where does this whole idea of deep fake, where does it come from? So you're quite welcome. Deep comes from the deep learning, right? And that's the technology that's used to create them. And again, deep fakes can make it look like someone is saying anything, doing something that they never did. That is what is the scary part. So how can we spot deep fakes? How can you spot deep fakes? Well, if you have to really, it depends on if you're looking at a video or if you're looking at audio or if you're looking at images, because the creators they really usually focus on just the visual and they kind of forget about the audio. So you'll see things like really bad lip syncing, and that kind of always tells you that there's something going on. But as a general rule, let's go through my list here. So if you can see that like there's a natural eye movement, right? So the video it doesn't blink, right? Or the eyes are not tracking in whatever the deep fake video is, or if the facial expression seems sort of awkward, it doesn't seem like I'm sitting here saying I'm so happy, and yet I'll be like that. You can kind of tell there's something going on. Poor lighting and shadows, like it doesn't just always match the background. And I was going to say, things are blurry, but what's so funny is that here it's blurry in my background too. But am I fake? No, I'm not. I'm real. Unnatural skin, the skin can appear, way too smooth or just have a strange texture. So those are just, some quick things to think about. But I think even beyond that is something that's easy to always consider is, you're sitting there checking the source. And that is something that you're going to always be thinking about. But as again, if we talk about this visual bit, you try to pay attention to the details. Try to pay attention to movement and things like that because technology is getting better, but still there are some inconsistencies that are a pretty good indicator that what you're looking at is not quite the right thing. So here we previously we were talking about visual deepfakes, and so then, as I said, there are also audio, right? So that whole idea of you're hearing something. If you see them both together, it's like there's a mismatch, right? That there's kind of like crazy lip syncing. Again, that sort of robotic voice, which you can hear a lot. And that is because it's just auto-generated voice and text. Sometimes there might be some strange background, and I'm saying that as I hear my fan going on in the background. I'm like, no, no, it's like it's inconsistent hums or strange digital noises, and also inconsistent body language, right? So the person's movements, they seem like there's something wrong. And I think here you need to sort of trust your instincts as you're looking at these things or listening to these things and say, hey, there's something's not quite right here. And always, always, and I think this is probably, again, what I was saying for both audio and visual, is this idea to check the source. Where is it coming from? Is it just popping up on some random social media site, some random user? If that's the case, how did that user get that information from whatever the latest news or the buzz that they've apparently gotten and that they're now sharing? So it's really that sort of idea of checking the source. And so I think what's really important is that We've all seen this, right? We've all heard about it, about deep fakes in the real world. This is what's so unfortunate, and I'm giving you just a quick examples of how we see it in the real world, but also how it can affect you, where you will receive something that is an email or a video or something to that effect that is a scam or something that's political. So again, some actual examples. We had there was a deep fake audio of a CEO that was actually used to authorize a fraudulent wire transfer, right? So that was pretty intense. Political candidates, we've seen a couple of those where, the candidate says, well, my opposing candidate did this and that, or perhaps it's even something about the political candidate themselves that is completely untrue, and they're sitting there admitting to something. Celebrity impersonation, I think one of the most famous ones that I saw was uh, it was Barack Obama, and it was not Barack Obama. It was an actor pretending to be him. So, I mean, obviously, celebrities and impersonators can do all of these things so easily, and it does go viral, and it is funny. Oh, there's another really good one of Tom Cruise. Actually, I think that's probably the one that they're referring to here. That is just so interesting. Harassment, so AI used to create non-consensual fake images and videos. This is pretty hardcore. This is probably the newest turn of AI and what can really, really go wrong here. And that is this idea of those types of images, those types of videos that you can really imagine without me having to say, and now they're using artificial intelligence to create the images. So, I one hand, it's great. It's no longer real children and real women being abused. But on the other hand, it's still, abusive use of technology and of images and things like that. So it really is a high stake problem. And there's also real personal harm, right? If you also are taking, like, for example, my face and putting it on somebody else's body and then using harassment AI, those are some of the harmful things that AI can do. And actually, I won't say AI, I will say bad actors who are using AI, what they are doing. So this whole idea that I really want you to think about, and it's for everything. I would love it if you are having conversations, having conversations with your kids about everything that's happening in the digital age, whether it's online video games or how they're using social media. What is AI? How do they feel? I mean, and especially with our young people, because one of the things that I have seen, I didn't include it here, but one of the things that I've seen that has just been rising recently, the past couple of weeks, is young people using AI as therapy, using chatbots to help them out because they feel like they don't have a trusted adult, or, it's just as good as going to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And it's not quite the same thing at all. So I think that is something you should also add on the list about talking to when you're talking to your kids about deep fakes, talk to them about AI in general. So what are we going to do? So again, the most effective way of teaching any of these skills is, you do it together, right? You do show by do. You don't just tell them what to do. You show them what to do. If there's a viral video or something that pops up or a deep fake that comes up, use that as a teaching moment. Take a step back and say, okay, let's figure out a way to talk about this. And it's not a lecture. You are not going to be yelling at them and say, this is why you shouldn't have social media and this is why I'm taking it away. No, 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 that's not going to help. You are trying to teach them how to behave when you're not in the room, right? And so that's why you're going to be modeling that good behavior. You're going to ask them questions, and this is again that critical thinking part, saying, "Huh, what does this seem real to you? Who do you think made this, and what might be fake about it?" Get them to ask questions too. And after you're asking, you can also say, well, what do you think? What other kinds of questions should we be asking about this video, about this content? And I think it's also important to focus on feelings, right? To sit there and actually point out how this video might be harmful, how it could be intentionally misleading, and discuss that. What do you think the effect is on the people who are seeing this video? What do you think the effect might be on the people who made the video? Really, you can explore, and you don't have to have the answers to these questions yourself. You just have to be able to, pose the question, explore this with your children, with your young people, with your community. Um, and again, this whole idea, we call it the pause and zoom method, right? Where you encourage your kids, just pause that video. Let's just take a second here. Let's really zoom in and let's, look for those red flags. Let's look for the things that we can see that we're talking about. So that is something that I try to encourage to do with my own children as well. And 18, and even though they've had me as their mom talking about online safety, forever since they were born, they still are getting into, I won't say trouble, but still challenging situations because, everyone's curious. Everyone wants to know what's out there and what is this and what is that. And so the biggest weapon that I have is conversation and critical thinking, obviously. But just really staying with them on those conversations, asking them, how was your school today? How was your online day? Those types of things because information is power, right? And that's information that you're getting, but also information that we're getting when we're talking about AI and technology. So I think that the skills that we're talking about, they're not just for deep fakes, right? This is like, this critical thinking skill and asking questions. This is universal. It is a universal defense against misinformation, against all sorts of the icky things that are out there where people are just clicking and saying, "Oh, I believe it," and it's just then next thing you know, the world is flat and we're just trying to figure it all out. So I think we need to realize that AI does make it easier to mass produce content, to go faster, but it makes it easier to mass produce fake content. And so we really need to use those critical thinking skills more than ever because there is just so much out there. And again, I wanted to make sure something that I always try to do when I'm talking about things in the digital world is to sort of take the technology out of it for a second. So if we weren't talking about AI, if we weren't talking about, radio and movies and trying to discover, is it real, is it not? We had to evaluate our sources in the past as well. We would evaluate sources in with newspapers and TVs and books, right? Think about when you yourself were writing papers in high school or in college, and the teacher would always say, don't just use one source. You're not going to just go on today's equivalent of looking in the encyclopedia and writing your whole paper based on that. You're going out and you're doing research, you're checking what the other sources are saying. It is the exact same thing in the online world and with AI, but we have a tendency to forget these things because everything is so easy and you can just ask Google. And I think you need to go a little bit further than that. So I think, again, this important idea is that generative AI, it can be so convincing for words, for images, for data, that it really is difficult to distinguish, what is human created content. Although there are, a few signs. So for example, if you're using ChatGPT a lot, there are signs that you're using ChatGPT. So again, think about that and share that with your children as well. That it reads very much like a robotic script. ChatGPT has a tendency to always talk in threes. These are the three things you need to know. Or it will say something like, I don't know, AI is power. AI is ubiquitous. AI is the future, right? That is how it speaks, and after a while, you're able to recognize those signals. That again, it is getting better at again trying to sound more and more human-like. So as much as I can give you some of the tools today, technology is trying to be even better so that way you don't notice it and you don't know. But we're still going to keep doing what we can.